Although businesses do not want to keep inventories, they have to keep inventories for a couple of reasons. One, uncertainty in the customer demand. We don't know exactly how many products we are going to sell. That means we have to keep enough inventory to satisfy that uncertain demand. The second one is the uncertainty in the supply side. These uncertainties could be associated with the quality, the quantity of the products we are going to get, the cost, and delivery times. And finally, we keep inventories because shipping larger quantities is cheaper than shipping small quantities. The Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals, CSCMP, publishes this yearly report called the State of the Logistics Report. Their 2017 report shows that in 2015, US businesses spent $427 billion as inventory holding cost, right? And that basically corresponds to $2,500 billion worth of inventories kept by the industry. Inventory holding cost has 4 components. Let's look into them one by one. Cost of capital is the largest one, and it is estimated to be between 20 and 40%. And I know many of you are probably thinking that that's very high into context of your business. For example, you might be working for a branch and you might be charged by 2 to 5% for your inventory per year from the headquarters for having those inventories. But when we talk about the cost of capital, we are also thinking about the when we talk about the cost of capital, we are basically thinking about the opportunity cost as well. So if you hadn't invested in inventory, but invested in stock market or opening a new branch, what would be your expected return on investment? And basically that gives you the cost of capital. The second one is the storage cost, and that is estimated to be between 15 and 18% in the US. Obsolescence cost, that's 5 to 7%, and insurance and taxes 1 to 2%. When you add up those numbers, it brings your overall bit somewhere between 40 and 65%. Again, I think many of you will Many of you probably strongly disagree with this one, because if you use 40%, for example, as your inventory holding cost, you really need to limit your inventories, which is sometimes hard for some of you. May think that that's a very large number, and I kind of agree, because again, due to the cost of capital, that number in your situation might be totally different. But some of you may be strongly disagreeing with this 40 to 65% number, but I also disagree with the numbers you probably are using in your company, like 3 to many of you might some of you may be disagreeing with the 40 to 65% inventory holding rate, because that means you need to be very careful about the inventories because they are expensive. Now, for many businesses, selling this idea of 40 to 65% is really difficult. So what I think is that even if you are using the cost of capital at a lower rate, your probably realistic inventory holding rate or cost is going to be somewhere between 20 to 25%. So if you're really using less than 20%, I ask you to reconsider the numbers, look into your cost of capital and the opportunity cost one more time before making the final decision. There are different types of inventories. Those types are based on where they are in supply chain or what is the purpose of those inventories. The in-transit inventory or the pipeline inventory, these are the products that are being moved, basically on the move, being transported from a location to another one. The working process inventory or VIP or WIP. There are different types of inventories, and usually these types are determined based on the use of inventory or where they are in a supply chain. The in-transit inventory or pipeline inventory means that the product is on the move. Basically, when you are transporting items or products, they are called in-transit or pipeline inventory. The second category is the working process inventory or WIP. These are products semi-finished and waiting to be basically finished, further processed and finished. When you go to a manufacturing facility, you may see that some products are semi-finished and waiting for the next machine to process them. That is basically the working process. Then we have the regular, cyclical, or seasonal inventories. If you guys remember the forecasting that we did in the previous week, there were different figures showing the pattern in the demand. Based on demand pattern, basically we'll have regular, cyclical, or seasonal demands. Safety inventory is kept in case the demand. Safety inventory or safety stock is all about the uncertainty. So we keep additional inventory in the system in case demand is more than our expectation, or in case some delay in the delivery from the supplier. Speculative or anticipatory inventory is that you are basically expecting an event happen in the future. For example, it could be a price increase, right? In those situations, you may be keeping additional inventories, right? And finally, obsolete or dead stock. These are the inventories not probably useful for you at this point. There are various inventory management philosophies. I kind of summarize some of them here. The first one is the pull strategy. This is basically demand happens before the product is delivered to the customer side, right? And this also there are various inventory management philosophies. Some of them are pull strategy. Basically, in this case, in an industrial distribution environment, branch is ordering from the supplier rather than the headquarter pushing this inventory to the. There are various inventory management philosophies. Some of them are as follows. The pull inventory policy management philosophy basically draws the inventory into stocking location. The idea here is that each stocking location, let's say a branch, is an independent entity, and they make their own decision about what to buy, when to buy, and how many to buy. And then the second one is the push strategy. This time, products are allocated to the branches from, let's say, headquarter rather than the headquarter branch deciding for their own. Idea here is to encourage economies of scale in production, transportation. Push strategy basically allocates the demand to the inventory location. Push strategy basically allocates the inventory to the stocking location. So if you are a branch, you don't make the decision about which item to buy or when to buy. It is managed by a centralized location. Usually, between push and pull, there is a management style difference as well. When there is a pull strategy, that means there is a decentralized decision-making process. And when there is a push strategy, there is a centralized decision-making process. Right? And push strategy basically allows the economies of scale in terms of production and transportation. Then we have the just-in-time. Idea behind the just-in-time is to basically minimize the inventory or need for the inventory, and it is based on the production, Toyota production system. One of the Toyota engineers in Japan basically went to then we have supply driven then we have the supply driven demand management. Next, we have the supply-driven inventory management. In this case, basically supply quantities or timings are not known. We are facing some shortages. In this case, you don't really have anything to say other than getting and processing all the products you can get. And finally, we have this aggregate control, which we'll study in the next video in more detail. This is basically based on this Pareto observation that 80% of the value is generated by 20% of the products, right? And based on this observation, products are categorized into 3 or more broad product groups, and then we have strategies to manage each one of them individually. Right? Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Please let me know if you have any questions.